All right, a very warm welcome back to some of you who've been away for a couple of minutes, but we're busy chatting a little bit about statistics, and a question that was posed by Karaba Malloy just now was, what are the dangers does big data collectors like Google pose to the integrity on the objective statistics? And as I said, as a journalist, I struggle as well, because we go into these search engines looking for information, and anybody can write anything about anything, and people can put in statistics, which are a load of rubbish. You know, they ask 4 people down the street, and it becomes a study. Yep. So take us through some of these challenges.
Well, I think we shouldn't immediately and say condemn big data. It's a very useful source, or rather, in itself and by itself, the gadgets that we have that continuously collect data about ourselves provide a very useful base of information. But you need to actually understand what the purpose is, what can it be applied to, and you also have to subject it to rigorous statistical techniques to start understanding what it actually means. So while big data might contain a lot of noise, it also, because the gadgets are available, provides very useful information. For instance, if you take Alibaba in China, when you compare the price indices derived from the Alibaba database, and my counterpart who retired from there, Mr. Ma, was saying that, well, we are now using information from Alibaba to try and look at price movements. So in that way, big data can be useful, but it depends how comprehensive it is, how many people use credit cards, and if all society uses credit cards, then you've got a universe and a census of things. The problem is who owns it and what are their interests. I mean, I don't want to talk about MTN, but you can see if this thing goes ugly in Nigeria, the data about that could have been public might be sacrificed in the process. So our view is this. The data that is collected passively by mobile devices must, as a matter of necessity, reside in the public domain, so that when changes and hostile takeovers take place, that public domain trust remains. Because we have entrusted all or rather we have put our trust in these gadgets with our public data and everything. When things go wrong, what then happens? So it's very, very important to engage that discussion as to who owns it and what are the governance arrangements in the ownership, so that we can exploit the possibility that technology provides to us. If it's driven by profit, it will always be problematic. So there needs to be an intervention, and that discussion is the discussion that is not happening in the world. It's not happening in South Africa, it's not happening in the world, and the project of sustainable development, which is the last opportunity that the world has, may actually be lost.
Okay. Ms. Awad, I'm just wondering, in all of this, we want to make lives better for people, and we want people to do better. And I'm just wondering, often we don't know what we don't know. And if we present information, statistics, have you found that it helps change behavior? Do people, once they know a certain bit of information, do they start to change their behavior patterns and behave better? I don't know.
It does take time to recognize and data and to, and yes, sure, it does change behavior. And it's because when you talk about facts on the ground, so you don't have something that you perceive or you think about it. It's just something which it's really there. And that's how you want to build on. The issue, which is very challenging, how we present it, how we let the others receive it, and that's actually the major role in our part, and I think the big data plays really a major role in that perspective, because we as NSOs, statistical offices, we failed in trying to, to present our data in really good manners and to be able to utilize it. I know that any human being, he doesn't have the interest, or she doesn't have the interest to search, but how we can bring it in more attractive way. So that's why when you talk about literacy, when you talk about schools, and and when you talk how the utilization of such data, this is where we bring the role of the big data really important. And the challenge which Pali mentioned is the division of role between who actually produce and how it is present, and how the stakeholders play this kind of role in getting such kind of big data, which is really, I think it's a rich resource of presenting data and getting data on board.
Are you seeing the same thing? Because you're about making this...
Yes, if you think about what data is, for example, information about prices, it sure changes people's behavior. They invest differently. If they know what's cost effective, and moving away from looking at total numbers and looking at numbers per capita, thanks to censuses, that changes decisions on a minute basis on this globe, because people can compare the cost effectiveness of different types of interventions, measure it afterwards, like the cost effectiveness of vaccinating children compared to other type of health interventions, the electrification of South Africa, the last parts. We know it's worth it because electricity is used for so many. There has been studies. Of course, data is changing decisions all the time, especially when it comes to money. Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like contraceptives, which are culturally related highly in decision-making inside families, knowledge about the likelihood of your children becoming successful if you have less children, that is something that people do intuitively. It's not driven by a statistic insight in every family, but across the world, men and women now get 2 children per family. It wasn't driven by data insight, but we can see it in the data, and we can realize what's going to happen with the demographic change in the rest of the world, which is an indication for other governments to invest in certain ways in family planning, etc., because we know it works all over the place. So no, some decisions will never be influenced by data in the way you think, but the other way around.
Okay, let's go to Sudesh Pillai on table number 3. And Sudesh asked an interesting question. I had to do statistics as one of my modules in my BCom, and I can't say that it was useful to me. I just had to suffer through it.
Honest guy.
Morning to the panel, I think. How do we make statistics more accessible to junior schooling, not just high schooling where you are initially presented with statistical reasoning? Should we just delink mathematics from statistical reasoning itself?
Okay. Yeah.
I think that, yeah, if I can answer, it's a difficult one because, as I said, most people actually hate statistics. I respect that because, in some sense, I also do. When I have enormous amounts of numbers in front of me in tables and I know they are not immediately comparable, I hate it. It's terrible, isn't it? I just wanted to sort up in a nice way and see what's in there. So, to make it useful to many people, it's all about like a JPEG image, it's data. When you look at the JPEG image, it doesn't look like data to you. It looks like a dog or maybe a polar bear because the pixels are colored based on the data. So when you end up in the data behind the image and you can't see the image, you hate it. You should. It's terrible. and this is the problem with many official statistics, that on their websites, their core mission is to provide the numbers. If they stop doing that and focus too much on presentation, they will lose track of their actual mission, which is to have high-quality numbers with uncertainty ranges. That's the previous thing. Then another layer of businesses should do what we are doing, make the data understandable and start competing. Unfortunately, we have almost no competition in the global factfulness effort that we're doing. But there is a layer, there is an enormous business. As soon as people see the value of understanding the reality behind the data, the business opportunity is enormous in explaining data. Because we get the same experience. You take those classes and you learn SPSS or something and I'm never going to use this because I didn't really get it and it was too complicated. The vocabulary is difficult. That's most people's experience and it should be. So there is this services that needs to be on top of the numbers.
Okay. Mr. Lehohla, is there another way to teach binomial theorems?
I mean, people experience life objectively, materially, they experience that life. Measurement comes as a consequence of what has been experienced. So they already know what is happening in their lives. Now, it is elevating that knowledge to action that is actually necessary. Let me give you an example. We ran something called census at schools. Instead, I say, unfortunately, we abandoned it, stupidly so. When this girl said to me, before census at schools, I didn't know how tall I was. That was a groundbreaking statement. And how we dropped that and didn't pursue it as the main process by which you get through to people. Then she would know what the size of clothes she has to wear and so on and so on and so on. And she then has to start playing with data. So it is critical to have it in schools at an early age. When you play games, you actually play with data. Piki mabela and sala gentleman, you are actually working with probability. What are the chances that around us doing that, who will be selected? We have lost that.
Yep.
So it's important to put it in that space. And with this gadgets, technology, that is why technology is so important. It democratizes access and decisions, and it democratizes education.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to take two questions, one after the other, because of the interest of time, and then get you as a panel to sort of address them. And we'll start with Sunil Nimbalka on table number 3. Okay, Sunil.
Good morning. My question is to Mr. Pali. How far is South Africa in terms of adopting the big data technologies? Compared to other developed countries, these big data technologies are used in every aspects of life in those countries. For example, in financial sector, healthcare is being big, agriculture, telecom, and in every area. So how far we are, just wanted to understand it.
Okay, thank you, Sunil. Okay. And then Albert Dugavea, table number 19. You've got a great question here.
Oh, Albert.
Sorry, I was posing the question of what are the challenges, and in looking at the challenges, what are the solutions in bringing about a statistical literate society? And how do we fast track this into government, into the highest level, so that it permeates all the way down to grassroots levels?
Okay, so now here's what's happening. We've run out of time, so you have to incorporate the answers to these questions as you sum up your thoughts, and you've got a minute each. That's crazy, I know. But also, we're moving from the MDGs to the SDGs. So you don't all have to answer, but if we could, between the three of you, as we start concluding, answering these questions and just address that. So about 30 seconds each, almost. Start with you.
Should I start?
Yes.
Okay, in Sweden, the society changes slower than in South Africa. I think South Africa is ahead of Sweden in terms of using new technology in healthcare, etc. And I wanted to answer this question as well.
Yes. Yeah, go.
I think realizing how wrong people are. That's why I'm doing these surveys. Because we are ignorant about our own ignorance until someone measures it. So that's key. Then people will get their eyes open and realize, oh, we need to teach this. Otherwise, nobody will know this. It's not a question about us being less intelligent than the chimpanzees. That's not what it's about. Knowledge is not intelligence. It's something else.
Okay. Mr. Lehohla?
Yes, on the SDGs, I think the big thing is that we have brought in environment. And one of the things that that will bring to the world is that it's no longer labor and capital. It's also natural capital. And I think the equation of relations of production in the world are going to change very, very rapidly. And factor in information technology, we are going to see a changed world. I think if you read Piketty, Capital in the 21st Century, points to a situation where capital will be different.
Okay.
Going forward.
Fantastic. And Mr. Awad?
Yeah, I want to talk about a bit, in Palestine, when we talk about challenges, we have so many challenges as statistical offices to produce statistics, comparable statistics according to the international standards. We have challenges on how we do data collection, having the apartheid wall. We have communities inside the wall, outside the wall. We have the occupation prohibited us from doing the data collection. We have settlements, we have settlers, we have area ABC, we have so many issues, and that's actually one of really the major roles which we want to bring it on board on the global world, on how we actually produce statistics within the conflict situation, within under occupation. This is one part which is really important to bring it globally, because now we were talking about Palestine, and now if you talk about the Arab region, and you will see that really challenging is coming on the region and coming on the world now, on Europe also, having also the impact of what is going in the Arab region on Europe and on the global world. And that's where the importance of statistics globally in that perspective. The issue is about the MDGs.
Run out of time, and we're going to have to leave it there. Perhaps we can share your thoughts with our audience here once we've said goodbye, and that's where we're going to have to end it, unfortunately. Thank you all so very much for joining us here and talking about statistics. Open your eyes. It's out there. Start using it. It can change your life. Have a great day, everybody. Leanne?
All right, Peter, thank you very much. And also thank you very much to your guests as well for being with us here on Morning Live this morning. Have a wonderful